Yes, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a brand new video. This is your latest Arsenal news and transfer news as well. Now, Arsenal interested in signing Brahim Diaz in this summer. It's going to be one of the big hot talents on the market in the transfer market, as Kylian Mbappe will be joining Real Madrid. Now, Arsenal are willing to pay up to 60 million as we are trying to find another wide attacker to add to the collection of Mikel Arteta. We'll be talking about the availability of Thomas Partey and Takehiro Tomiyasu, who today have both played in an indoors, behind closed doors game for Arsenal, while we lost 4-0 to QPR. But I think the big highlight is Thomas Partey played 60 minutes and Takehiro Tomiyasu played 45 minutes of that game. And of course, we'll dive into the truth about Benjamin White and exactly why he doesn't want to play for England, because some new information has actually come out and it shows that Steve Holland, the assistant, manager at England, actually told him that he's literally not interested in football as compared to other players like Kyle Walker, and that made him very angry, and he actually stormed out of the England national camp in Qatar during the World Cup. So there's a lot to unpack in this episode. Why don't you just sit down, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel as well, and let's dive into it. Now, if you want to watch my new video on Aaron Ramsdale and why I think Aaron Ramsdale is on the decline and why he actually fell out of favor at Arsenal, I have released that video on Cossy's Arsenal podcast, and that is the thumbnail. You can go there and watch it. I'll be really, really grateful. It's literally an explainer of why I think Ramsdale is still a good goalkeeper, but at the moment the Arsenal project has grown beyond him. And in one of the interviews where he said that he can't concentrate for 90 minutes, that was a mistake that cost him his place in this Arsenal team. So if you want to watch that video, please do. It's available and live on Cossy's Arsenal podcast. Right, let's dive into the latest today, and the big one is coming in from, I think, a very reliable source, and this is a story that has been there for quite some time. That Arsenal interested in signing Brahim Diaz from Real Madrid. Now, it's a story that started a little bit earlier, I think 2 weeks ago, because of the Kylian Mbappe, storm, and I think there will be a domino effect. There will be a ripple effect when, when he signs for Real Madrid. One thing we have seen with Real Madrid is that when they sign a big name, when they sign a big player, they are going to release some other player. I think financially, they're a very smart club. You can't have Brahim Diaz at the same time. You have Vinicius Junior, Rodrigo, and then you have, Kylian Mbappe. Of course, you can. Financially, I think they can, but of course, they want to be in a much better situation, especially with FFP rules, Champions League financial fair play rules, and all those, troublesome guidelines that are actually really squeezing clubs these days. So it means that the arrival of Kylian Mbappe, who is going to be more like a number 9 for them, and is also going to be like the star guy, the name and the picture of the project that they're building, that is including the likes of Jude Bellingham, Vinicius Junior, Rodrigo, Tchouameni, Camavinga. It means that some players are going to have to leave the club, and that's going to be Brahim Diaz. Now, I am lucky enough that I'm a big AC Milan fan, and last season he was at AC Milan for a whole season on loan, and I tell you, this guy is really, really exciting. But I have my own concerns about him, and we're going to talk about those concerns because, in my opinion, I think Arsenal fans are excited for nothing on Brahim Diaz. I just don't understand the level of excitement that I'm getting. People inboxing me, people tagging me on Twitter, people tagging me on Facebook and wherever. Cossy, we need to see you do a video on Brahim Diaz. I appreciate he's a good talent, but when you look at what Arsenal want right now, a Kudus kind of player, someone like Pedro Neto, I think that's what we're looking for. I don't think Brahim Diaz is in that bracket. But is there genuine interest from Arsenal in Brahim Diaz? I think there will be genuine interest, especially in the summer. Now that we're looking for another wide attacker to add to our ranks, I think there will be a lot of interest in him. First and foremost, he's an opportunity on the market, and we know Arsenal are really, really eager to go and get players that are available. You look at the David Raya situation. Arsenal were really not in the market for a goalkeeper in that summer, last summer. But because there was an opportunity for for us to go and sign, one of the best goalkeepers in the league, but also one of the best targets that Mikel Arteta was really ever interested in. We found ourselves trying to structure a deal and eventually getting him to Arsenal, and maybe he's going to be a key reason as to why Arsenal maybe win something major this campaign. So the fact that there will be an opportunity for a talent like Brahim Diaz, I won't be surprised and I won't be shocked if Arsenal go in there, negotiate a deal between 45 to 55 million euros and get him to the Emirates Stadium. Now, the beauty about him, of course, he's very, very short if you've seen him. Very, very short. And it's one thing I really, really don't like about my wingers. I love wingers that are a little bit, kind of medium. Maybe not very tall, but kind of medium. But he's very, very short. But his technical ability does not go away. So he's got that versatility, first and foremost. And he reminds me of the Eden Hazard. Now, if you watched him at AC Milan, which I know you didn't, so I did, and I'll tell you, if you watched him at AC Milan last season, he was more like an Eden Hazard in that AC Milan sign. And with the signing of Charles de Ketelaere that actually had failed out, and AC Milan were looking desperately for someone who could give them that kind of inspiration in attack, he was an absolute season-defining gem for AC Milan last season. And I think for Arsenal, there is a question. If Mikel Arteta brings him in, he's not Odegaard, he's not Kai Havertz, he's not Emil Smith-Rowe, but of course he can't do that Emil Smith-Rowe because he's got the ability to dribble, and he loves to dribble, and he loves to keep the ball to his feet, and he's more like a Leandro Trossard at times as well. I think if he comes in, I won't be surprised to see either of Gabriel Jesus or Leandro Trossard leave the club. Now, I know one of Reece Nelson and Edin Ketia, or both, one of them will leave. But I think we might see a major departure at Arsenal. And I don't think it's going to be Leandro Trossard. I think, and I'm getting vibes, that it might be Gabriel Jesus. Just think about it. Gabriel Jesus' role at Arsenal is diminishing every single day. Kai Havertz is now playing at a much better and high level, quality level than him, in my opinion. And Arsenal are looking to add a big striker to their ranks in this summer. So let's say we bring in Victor Gyökeres, and we have Kai Havertz, who can double as a left number 8, but also as a centre forward. I think the role of Gabriel Jesus is finished. So what Arsenal have to do is to cash in on Gabriel Jesus, and that could get us around 50 to 60 million, and then maybe we could bring in Brahim Diaz at 60 million. So I'm not really convinced about his profile, but I like him. He's a very, very good player, right? He's one player I can't say don't sign him, but if I was to choose between him and Pedro Neto, if I was to choose him between him and, surprisingly, Marcus Rashford, I would still go for Marcus Rashford, in my opinion. I kind of understand the frustration with Marcus Rashford, and I promise you, I'm going to do a video about Marcus Rashford and why Arsenal signing Marcus Rashford could be a game changer for Marcus Rashford's career. Probably not for Arsenal's career, but for Marcus Rashford's career. We'll do that video on Cossy's Arsenal podcast, so make sure you subscribe to that channel as well. So I want your thoughts on Brahim Diaz. Interesting talent, very good player, but does he really fit into the system? He can allow Mikel Arteta to rotate in game. He can allow Mikel Arteta to play and unlock different kind of systems. And I think if Emil Smith-Rowe is to leave, we might need a player of his qualities. We might need his qualities replaced, and Brahim Diaz can actually do that. So he's a player who can do a bit of everything. Traditional number 10, I think it doesn't really fall there. Although many pundits and many mainstream media have branded him as a traditional guy, I don't think he's a traditional player. I don't think he's a traditional number 10. I think he's more of a hybrid between the old number 8 and the new number 10, right? So I think he can do a bit of a Martin Odegaard, and then he can do a bit of a Frank Lampard. But the exciting part of it is when you put him wide, he will do a job as well, just like Eden Hazard. So if you remember Eden Hazard, I think that is Brahim Diaz, and it's also very, very press resistant as well. So why do I have questions about him? I have questions about his size in the Premier League. And I'm not saying short, small players can't play in the Premier League. We've seen Bernardo Silva, we have seen David Silva. David Silva wasn't really very small, but he was small, and he was concerning physically, but of course that never stopped him from being one of the best players we have ever seen in the Premier League, did it? And then the likes of Santi Cazorla as well. So if he can come into the Premier League and do a Santi Cazorla, Bernardo Silva, I don't have a problem with him. But again, it's still a point of concern until he comes to the Premier League and he actually does it. We have already seen a problem with Fabio Vieira. Then the other problem I have with him is the qualities that Mikel Arteta demands in his wingers. He doesn't possess that. I don't think he's this kind of soccer Martinelli guy, trying to beat you 1v1 at a very, very quick rate and all that kind of stuff. I don't think he's that kind of guy. I think he's a player who really, he's a team player. He can dribble and he can take on, one-man missions. We did see him at AC Milan last season. But I'm just worried about him and his profile in the Premier League. But of course, we'll do a video about him and let's not spoil the party. He is wanted by Arsenal, according to reports, and it could be something very, very interesting to watch. Now, Arsenal today have lost 4-0 in a behind closed doors game against QPR. But that is not the headline. Of course, the headline there is that Arsenal have conceded 4 goals within 90 minutes when we have not conceded 4 goals almost whole year. That could be because of the absence of key players, of course, and I presume that many of the young players played in this game. So the key highlight is Thomas Partey played for 60 minutes in this game, and Takehiro Tomiyasu played 45 minutes as well in this game. And I think if you're an Arsenal fan right now, the one thing you're really worried about is injuries, but also Arsenal falling apart and falling away. I won't be surprised to see Thomas Partey being a very, very big part of this Arsenal side when we get to April and May. So I want him to come back as quickly as possible. With Takehiro Tomiyasu, I really can't explain enough why we need him back and why I'm desperate to get to see him, in this Arsenal side. Because I think Julian Timber is going to take his time to come back. So we might see Julian Timber against Bayern, first leg or second leg. So Takehiro Tomiyasu is the closest player you have to backing up Kivio, Ben White, Saliba, and Gabriel. So you need him fit all the time. And I would even argue that if none of those players actually picks up an injury, Takehiro Tomiyasu should not play. Because my problem with him is that he's so fragile. When you decide to give him some game time, he's just gonna pick up an injury. So if he's not broken, don't fix it. So don't play him until someone is really tired, or someone is really exposed, or someone has been affected by the pressure of the last 10 games. But that is the key highlight. Partey played and Takehiro Tomiyasu both played in that game as Arsenal were losing 4-0 behind closed doors against QPR. Now, Benjamin White, today we have received quite a number of stories about the truth about Benjamin White, but I think the most interesting one comes in from the Telegraph. And it is something that you guys tried to point out to me, and I kind of ignored it because I didn't have enough evidence about what really happened between Steve Holland and Ben White at the World Cup 2020 in Qatar in the England national camp. But what actually happened, and why Ben White is not really interested in playing for England for now, and why this is actually something very, very big for his future. Actually, Steve Holland told Ben White that he's not interested in football like his mates. So the whole conversation comes from Steve Holland talking to Kyle Walker and talking to Ben White about the title running last campaign. And of course, Ben White, I think Kyle Walker is a little bit more experienced with title talk and all that kind of stuff. So I think he gives him a more outward and a more, I think descriptive picture of what the title race was. When Steve Holland asked Ben White about the title race at Arsenal and the mood and the feeling and everything, Ben White chose to reserve some information, and he chose to be inward rather than outward. And that kind of, I wouldn't say really angered, because it is absolutely stupid for you to call a player who has played 38 games for a club like Arsenal at a high level, and he still has a 50 million pound price tag on his back, and he's done exceptionally well, and then you tell him that he's absolutely not interested in football. It's absolutely fucking disgusting. So Steve Holland tells Ben White that, mate, you're not interested in football. You don't have interest in football. I don't understand how you are a footballer. And that kind of made Ben White a little bit, I would say, unhappy at the during the time. And then he decided, and he asked to be excused from the camp. And ever since then, he's never wanted to go back again. So that is I don't know. I think I will do a video about this. It's kind of a mini explainer, but I will do a video about this Ben White thing, because it's really, really very, very interesting for me. Now, Arsenal and Manchester United will be fighting for the signature of Benjamin Sesko from RB Leipzig. Is one of the young strikers that modern football is really grooming, and I think Arsenal are really desperate for a striker, but I don't think we're desperate for options in that position. Let me explain. I think Arsenal really know who is going to be our number 9. At least we have 3 good options. My problem with Benjamin Sesko, and my problem with all this talk about Man United and Arsenal fighting for Sesko, is that it might increase interest in the player, but I'm not really sure after 1 or 2 seasons in the big European sides, he's actually ready. I think Benjamin Sesko is another player that needs 2 good seasons at the top. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. If Arsenal want to sign a striker from Germany right now, it has to be Lewis Openda. I don't think he's there yet, but the job he did at Lens last season and what he has done at RB Leipzig this season, I'm convinced he could be the guy. He's not a polished article, but I don't think he's anywhere as raw as Benjamin Sesko. But of course, we'll be diving into the Arsenal transfer talk around strikers a lot, in detail. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel as well. Like I said, we've done a video on Aaron Ramsdale and what absolutely went wrong for my guy. If you want to watch that video, it's live on Cossy's Arsenal podcast. I appreciate it. See you soon.